Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter. And as we went through in the 5th chapter, right, dealing with the generations of the sons of Adam through the line of Seth, leading up all the way until Noah and his 3 sons. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So as the population of the earth started to increase, and you had more and more women, being born and so on, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, meaning they looked good. And the daughters of men were the women of the other nations, right? Which at this time would just be those outside the sons of God, or that line, that group. Because remember, you have, when you deal with the scriptures, you have classifications, right, collectively, of the people on the earth, right? You have the sons of God, which is a distinction for those that later on come to be known as the Israelites. Then you have the daughters of men, or even the sons of men, but that's dealing with the heathens and collectively. And then you have the sons of the wicked, which is isolating a particular nation among the heathens, which are the Edomites. So they each have a role to play. But long story short, these fine, beautiful women were being taken by the sons of God. And these sons of God are not talking about fallen angels and so on and so forth that came and slept with human women and then created. No, these are talking about those that were of the line of Adam, that chosen line. And they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord Yahweh said, my spirit shall not always strive with man. Which, when you go into that word strive, it's like to contend with, right? To go back and forth with, to put up with. For that he also is flesh, because at this point, as you can see in the subheading, the corruption of mankind, the man started to deviate, right, from the ways of the Lord. And as we're going to go into in a verse or two, the excellency of the sons of God started to lose that, as they started to deviate from that way that made them separate from the rest of the people. And so eventually, as wickedness started to grow, of course, not only, amongst the disobedience of the sons of God, but just in general, that's why the Lord said this. For that he also is flesh, i.e., he is mortal, yet his days shall be 120 years. So the Lord shortened the lifespan of man to right around the range of 120. Now, in this case, it's not exact, right? Some people may live to 120, rare, especially in our days now, with how terrible the earth is. Some may live a little older or past that, and some might not even reach that. Some may not even reach the half of it. But this was the general ballpark the Lord set. It says, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in onto the daughters of men. The giants here are what I described above. These are referring to the sons of God, but it calls them giants here. It's not talking about people the size of the Empire State Building. The word here is Napayal, which it says giants to Nephilim, but that's not what it means. When you go into, looking at the Strong's definition, it says properly a feller, i.e. a bully or tyrant. In the Chaldee lexicon, it says here, the etymology of this word is uncertain. Some have compared that, I think it's Arabic, with which gig and cast render great, large in body, right? Which is like the mythical giants you'd usually think about. But this is incorrect, for it means excellent, noble, skillful. I prefer with the Hebrew interpreters and aku falling on attacking, so that napayal is of intransitive significance. So I think the more important part we can pick out here is the rejection of it meaning giants in body, right, being abnormally large, but rather in referring to those that were of excellency, noble, and skillful, okay, which were the sons of God. That's why we were separate from the other trees in the garden, which represented the other nations of people. Now, when you go to the root word for Napayal, you have here Nepal, which means to fall, right? To fall, to fall, to lie prostrate, to cause, to fall, to overthrow. And this was basically the state that we came into from that excellent, noble, and skillful state. We fell from that. All right. Hence, our lifespan started to get shorter as the sons of God, as we read up above, started to deviate from the way of God to the point where the whole earth was now filled with wickedness. So that's what it means by giants. Okay, it's really referring to those that were the sons of God that were excellent in nature and noble, who really started to fall from that state that they were in. So during this time period on the earth, you had the sons of God that existed, and also after that, when the sons of God came in onto the daughters of men, so when they took them wives and they had children with them, right, and they bare children to them, the same, meaning the children, became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And this is because, even though they had fallen, they still carried the genes or the spirit of sons of God. Hence, when their offspring that would come of them would inherit that spirit, right? As we know, the nationality is determined by the father. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. See? So it's kind of like today. And that's why the Lord compared, this time to the time of Noah, because all you see now is wickedness. 90, if not 99% of news, most of the time, whether breaking or any news you see, is mainly centered around something wicked or dangerous or violent. Somebody, was assaulted, somebody was murdered, somebody was beheaded, somebody, there's war in a certain country, there's, legislations that are going to lead to more chaos or violence. Almost all the breaking news that comes out nowadays is dealing with that. It's very rare that you see something that is unrelated to that, because that's the theme of the world today. It's wickedness all around. And then when you look on social media, you see even more wickedness. Social media is not about socializing in a normal way anymore. It's sexual media. That's what it is. Everything is over sexualized. Every single thing you see is either some woman half dressed in a promiscuous attire, somebody trying to promote this or that, or somebody spewing madness on some podcast. That's all it is, everywhere. So back then, they had their own version of it. But as it says, every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was continually evil. So the things that they would think to do was evil, right? It wasn't right. It was just like they just desired to outdo each other in wickedness, like you see today. So continuing in verse 6, and it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. So the Lord, like what you would say, it's kind of like regretted, almost making man, because it didn't turn out the way he wanted it to. Even though all in all, everything is the will of the Lord. It's looking at it and be seeing, them, all this corruption on the earth. The Lord did not like it. It displeased him. So as it says here, and the Lord said, I will destroy I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. Right? I regret even making them because of how wicked they have become. And so the Lord ends up doing this, except instead of destroying everybody, he saves Noah and his family. So as it says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh. So the Lord looked upon Noah, and Noah being separate, right, holy, different from from the rest of the world and their wickedness, kind of like Lot amongst the Sodomites. The Lord found grace in his eye, and Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, meaning the Lord saw Noah and decided to be gracious unto him, so he wouldn't be destroyed with everybody else. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, so he was a righteous man, and perfect in his generations. I believe the scriptures mention that he was a preacher of righteousness, and Noah walked with God. See, similar to Enoch. All right. So as it says here, verse 10, and Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Okay, so similar to what we read up above. So it's like everywhere that was just like actual violence, kind of like today, just violence everywhere. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. So there was a way in a proper order in which the Lord had set the earth in, okay, the course, but the man deviated from that and went after their own imaginations and made themselves corrupt. And this involved even the sons of God. Remember, we read in the verse above that they were in the earth. They had children, but yet only Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. So through their actions and their corruptive ways, the earth is now filled with violence. Let's actually look up that word violence. What's that? Hamas. It says here violence, wrong, cruelty, injustice. Okay. So everywhere you go, that's what was happening to some degree. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So the Lord planned to destroy them off the face of the earth. So he instructs Noah, make thee an ark of gopher wood. Now an ark, when you go into the word, it's really like a box, like a square. Okay, that's what an ark is. When you even deal with the Ark of the Covenant. So it says here, a vessel which Noah built. When you see it here, it says perhaps a foreign derivation, a box, right? So the Lord instructs Noah to build an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, so sections, and and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. And the pitch was supposed to make it waterproof, right, to prevent water from getting into the ark. And chances are, right, when there's certain wood that that they use when making, at least in the past, when making ships, right, because those kinds of wood can actually stay on the water and not get soaked up, completely in the sink. But you still needed to make it waterproof, or else if water starts filling into the ark, it's going down. It's going down for real. So that's what the Lord instructed Noah to do on the outside and on the inside. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. So this is the way you should design it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. And with the measurements we have now, these cubits are really, like, the numbers you can find for them now are an approximation. So we just know at least that they were of certain distance, right? The length was clearly longer than the breadth or the width and then the height. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof. So make it the door in the side of the ark. With lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. So the ark had divisions, i.e. rooms, and it also had different stories in it, right? Different decks. And I'll look at this, I'll read this in the NLT as well for the part of the window, so it makes a bit more sense. Leave an 18-inch opening, that's what they measure a cubit to be, below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. So you have the roof, you have about 18 inches of space from the roof to the to the walls, which is your window space. And then you have the rest of the parts of the ark. Verse 17, and behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. From under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. This is referring on to all forms of life on land that breathe air. Because the fish, the shark, and all that, they already dwell in water, so they didn't die. But right here, all those on the land, that's why it mentions, which is the breath of life. They and as it says, from under the heaven and everything in the earth shall die, if it wasn't on the ark. But with thee will I establish my covenant. So I'm going to establish a covenant with you, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. So that would be Noah, and we know he had 3 sons, so that's about 4 people right there. And then you have Noah's wife and the 3 wives, or the wives of his 3 sons. So that's about 8 people right there total. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Okay, so the lions, cows, elephants, you take them in pairs, male and female. Necessary because they need to procreate, they need to reproduce, especially after the flood, in order to keep that species alive. Of fowls after their kind, so birds included. And yeah, birds can fly, but birds don't fly forever. They eventually get tired and they need to land somewhere, right? When they want to rest or sleep, they have nests for that. So if the whole earth is full of water, but you didn't put any birds on the ark, eventually they're going to get tired and they're going to fall into the water, and then they're going to drown and die. So the fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. Now remember that man had dominion, right, over living creatures at this time. So we had more command over them, and the Lord put the fear of man on them. So it wasn't like today trying to go and get a lion or 2, right, or elephant or 2. Back then, they had more dominion to be able to call these animals, and have them obey you to do this. And the Lord also controls the spirit of the animals anyway. All right. One example is in the book of, I believe it's in the book of Kings. I forget if it might have been 2 Kings, maybe 13 or so. But it deals with when the Lord sent a prophet to Jeroboam in the northern kingdom and instructed the prophet not to eat or drink in that land. The prophet ends up getting deceived by another prophet and eats and drinks in that land. And the Lord commanded a lion to come and slay him. All right. Same way the Lord commanded the ravens to feed Elijah. So he controls their spirit anyway. Verse 21, and and take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall it shall be for food for thee and for them. So prepare enough rations of food that you eat for both you and the animals. Okay. And good thing the animals were, at this time, they were still herbivores. So it was about cutting or getting enough herbs, grass, so on, for them to eat. Likewise, rations for Noah and his family as well. Thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so did he. Now, this wasn't a one-day job, okay? It took a good period of time. But as we see, Noah was able to get it all done and be well prepared for the devastating flood and destruction that the Lord was going to bring. And that brings us to the end of the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.